Welcome, everybody. Today we got another build video. Wait, no, we have a rebuilding video. That's right, we are going to be taking apart the LCK75 I built in another video. I'll put a link to that where you can find it. And we're gonna rebuild it. If you watched that video, number one, bless your soul, it's an hour and 40 minutes, thank you for watching it. But number two, it was in an acrylic case from P3D, which I didn't end up liking. Part of the reason is actually the plate you see here. This is a palm plate that bolted in around the edges of the case, and thus this area here got really flexy because not only was there no support near the top middle of the plate, there's no material, so this was just kind of droopy almost. So wasn't for me. Maybe with a different material would have worked better. So all that to say, today we're gonna be rebuilding it using the chassis it came with, which is a very minimal chassis, FR4 plate, little acrylic window to cover this stuff up, and then an FR4 plate on the bottom to protect all your solder joints. And on the topic of those solder joints, we need to undo a lot of them. And thus to help that, I now have a Hakko FR301 desoldering gun. I got one. It's awesome. Well, I assume it's awesome. The other purpose of this video, not only to rebuild the LCK75, but also to learn to use this thing. I've never actually used one of these before. I have watched Wildcat's video where he compares this to a number of other, or I guess I say he, I assume Wildcat's a dude, I actually don't know, where they compare a bunch of solder pumps, which is kind of like what I used to use. I think this was actually in their video, this guy here, because the traditional method of desoldering is you heat up the joint and then you plunge it and suck the solder off, but that's annoying because you're trying to get a lot of things in a small place. Whereas the Hakko, this tip is remarkably hot. Really everything up to the black section there is remarkably hot. And then there's a vacuum in the middle that sucks the molten solder up. So this video is equal parts rebuilding the LCK75 and me learning to use this and hopefully not burning all of my fingers off. Literally right before I started recording, I picked it up kind of stupid, and I didn't burn myself, but one of my fingers definitely got warm. So this is an object to be respected. If you're not familiar with this tool, basically the way it works is it's a little easier to see from top down. This tip is heated to a temperature set on a dial on the handle, and then this is all hollow through here, and there's a pump in the body here that sucks air through this chamber through that nozzle, so the solder gets sucked up, hits a little metal cap in the end of this area, cools it off, and turns it into just little bits of lead that land in this container, which you can then empty out. So a very smart little tool, but a tool I've never used before. So all that to say, I watched Wildcat's video, very good, I'll link to it. I read the pretty brief instruction manual that comes with this in terms of its operation, and we're just gonna go for it, you know? I can't imagine I'm going to show all of the desoldering because that's a lot of the same thing over and over and over again, which you know I don't like showing. If you've watched any of my previous videos, I'll either time-lapse or just cut through it entirely. But I figured we could learn how to use it together. And then the other part of this video will be reassembling it. I definitely won't show soldering all the switches again because that's super boring. But then assembling the original case it came in, and then this time I promise, if you came from the other video for the promise of sound tests, there will be sound tests. I don't know what I'll be comparing in those sound tests. It might be different keycap profiles. It might be with or without the included foam that comes with this. I'm not really sure yet. But let's desolder. Let's start there. So the way the instruction manual says this works is you press, so I've got my zoom lens that I have now so we can get even closer without me doing anything in editing because that's both annoying and not as high quality. You press the tip of this against your solder. Well, you tin this actually like a soldering iron, so I've got a little bit of lead solder on there now. I'm gonna put a little bit more on because that kind of oxidized while I was talking. You tin this for heat conductance, and then you press it against your solder joint, and then you pull the trigger to suck the solder up. So we're just gonna try. We're just gonna go. I'm not going to have terribly great footage of this. This portion of the video is more for other people who are using one of these for the first time. Anything I learned while doing so. For reference, I have it set to heat setting 2, which is 400 Celsius or 750 Fahrenheit. That seems to be pretty well regarded as a good setting for keyboard switch sized joints, but we might learn something there too. So let's see what happens. Part of me wants to like grab the back of this with my hand to support it, which I think is good, but you have to make sure not to grab anything hot. It's not like holding a drill. So we go down over that. Well, holy shit. It totally desoldered it. I don't know why I'm that impressed. It's what the box says this object should do. And yet, that upper left pin on that switch in the middle of the screen, look at that. I think I held it too long. You can see a little bit of residue. I'm not sure if that's soot. I'm not sure what I'd call that. Next to the pin. So I think I held that on heat first a little bit too long. So let me try to be a little faster on the other one. This stand it comes with is not heavy enough to effectively pull it out. I might need to maybe Velcro that down to my bench. But let's try another one. That melted very fast. I'm going to cool this down just a little bit. So I'm at 1.5 now. There's on the little wheel here, there are, oh boy, okay, hold this upside down without burning myself on it while looking at the camera monitor. There you go. So you can see there's numbers and notches on the wheel. So where this is, I have the little nubbin at 1.5 there. So obviously it won't be that temperature now. It has to cool down. That's one thing I noticed about this is you can hear the heating element ticking on and off while it's sitting in the stand, which is interesting, I suppose. So let's try another one. Okay, that melted, I feel like, equally quickly and has less residue. Again, soot, I'm not sure what that is. So you can see the 2 in the middle there. I completely did the left one, there's a lot of residue. I've only done the left pin on the second one, and there's way less residue on the board. Now I'm curious, does that residue come off easily / at all? Where is my nylon brush? There we go. Oh wait, no, I have one just for lead stuff. Actually, I gotta keep the lead separate. Does that white residue? Okay, that white residue totally comes off. So I'm not actually sure what that is entirely, but with a little nylon, that's been a while since I recorded a video. With a little nylon brush, I think this actually came with my solder kit, I can't remember. It comes off. If you don't have a nylon brush that came with your solder kit, there's the kit of 3 of these on Amazon. It includes a brass one, which is what this one is, a stainless steel one, and a nylon one. I use the brass one on my 3D printer, which is this one here, to clean the nozzle off. But I use the nylon one for getting flux off of boards. If I know I'm going to be wiping over lead, I typically use this one just because, you know, keep lead off of as many things as possible. But man, there you go. That's pretty stinking easy. Man, this stand is not great. You know, there's a screw on top. I'm wondering if I can adjust that tensioning screw on the stand. It's the Hako 633 holder. I might need to adjust that. But anyway, let me... Man, that's pretty good. I think I did that third switch too fast. Look at that. That's absolutely amazing. Okay, honestly, I'm not sure there's a lot to learn here. This is the default tip that comes with it. There are, because it's Hako, there are lots and lots of tip sizes you can get. This is just the included one. And if we look in there, you may be able to see the little solder bit. Oh yeah, there you go. You can see the solder from those switches rolling around in there. That's very impressive. I'm gonna leave the camera rolling I'm either going to time-lapse this or just skip past it if it's uninteresting. I know people really like the sound of this tool, the kind of burr sound it makes. It is it's a lot of fun. It really feels like you're getting some done. Yeah, this is either going to be a time-lapse or I'm going to cut past this, one of the two. I'm not sure yet, but I'm definitely going to do that. And I will see you on... Oh, are the switches just like falling out of here? Oh, look at that. Switches are just falling out. Okay, cool. That's great. Palm plates. Very soft. Neato Burrito, I will be back with you soon with a fully desoldered keyboard, which you may or may not have watched me do at a very fast pace. See you on the other side. Well, I mean, that's pretty definitive right there. I think I'm like a minute into doing this and I've got the whole top row done. And because it's a palm plate, most of them are even nice enough to just completely fall out for me. So, yeah, there you go. This is the best way of doing this. It's the most expensive way of doing this. That little pump I showed you is like $20. This is like $300, $250. Regardless, an order of magnitude more expensive, but I would say if you're desoldering even a single keyboard, it seems worthwhile. Now, I did just discover I did not completely do these two. As the switches are like falling, I got this stand. As the switches are like falling out, I'm wondering if it's making it difficult to completely desolder them because they're kind of running away from the vacuum. Good. Still good? No, you're still not good. Why aren't you good, bro? Yeah, are you good? Oh, there's another one. What about this guy? Why aren't you? That's definitely the right leg. Or I guess right as I'm looking at it, left from the top. So one thing you need to do, oh no, there we go. I was about to say, one thing you need to do sometimes is actually apply more solder to the joint if that happens. Because if there's like so little solder, it can't, the vacuum can't act upon it, then obviously it won't act upon it. But if you add more solder, then it kind of all gels together and you can pull the mass of solder off. So that is one tip I have heard, but I'm gonna continue here. Alright, one thing I have learned here so far is you don't want to create a perfect seal. So like the tip of this iron is flat. You can see it's kind of stub-nosed. Whoop, stub-nosed. If you put that flat perfectly against the PCB, there's nowhere for it to suck air past, if that makes sense, to create a pulling force. It just kind of creates a vacuum, which sounds like what you want, but not quite. So, worth noting, coming in at just like ever so slight of an angle seems to get the job done. So, learning. Okay, look at that. That was like, 15 minutes, maybe. Desoldered every single one of those switches, and there we go. Pretty good. Not a lot of that scorching after I turned this down. So at least for this solder mask and the solder I use, setting 1.5, I can turn that off. Setting 1.5 seemed fine for temperature, which would be, assuming the scale is linear, 425 Celsius. That's great. That's super fantastic. I don't know what else to say. Yeah, the thing I noticed, so temperature, technique, not creating a perfect seal between the tip of the gun and the PCB. Just, you know, being angled off to the side just a little bit. And then kind of continuing the vacuum as you lift up and completely break. That seal seems to get like the last little bit off a little bit better. And then also I noticed between rows, dipping it in your brass wool and tinning it seem to give you the most effective heat transfer. But that's that, man. That's part one. That is so much easier than I expected it to be. You know, it's one of those things where you see the tool over and over again, like in your head, you know how much easier it is, but like compared to the very small amount of desoldering I've done, switch down, the very small amount of desoldering I've done before this point using my hand pump. I want to make sure my chair doesn't roll over that switch. Where is it? There it is. That's easier than I ever could have imagined. That's so fast. The gun is kind of heavy. Like I feel it in my hand a little bit. I'm not sure if that's from the vibration. We can zoom out at this point. I'm not sure if that's from the vibration or the weight of the gun, but like I feel it in my hand a little bit. So I'll take a quick rest break here before moving on. But dang, that's amazing. That's awesome. If you have $250 to spend on a workshop tool, wow. If you don't, the pumps work fine. You're just gonna be settling in for quite a bit more hand labor than that was. I mean, 15 minutes, that's 80 switches approximately. Highly recommend Hakko FR301. Amazing tool. Hakko 633 solder stand. Kind of annoying. I just might need to tweak my screw on it a little bit to make it more or less tight. And now you can see. Interesting that so much of it is all bundled up against one end, but you can see in there, camera, woo, almost just touched it again. Man, I am dangerous. You can see that gray mass in the middle of the frame there, that's all the solder up in there. I think if I pull this back, that releases that little container. Yes, sir, it does. And yeah, there's just a whole mess of solder in that tube. So I'll now need to read the cleaning instructions on how to get that out of there. It seems a little odd to me that it's all like stuck to the front. I'm wondering if you're maybe not supposed to have it pointed straight down while that solder is cooling off. I will read the care instructions. And oh, nope, okay, jettisoning. There's a release button here that shoots that back forward. Totally released that giant mound of solder that's in the middle there. So it was kind of adhered to the front. That's too funny. I might heat this back up and make sure none is melted to that spot. But there you go. All that's in the care manual for this guy. I'm also going to actually reheat this and clean the tip off. I forgot to do that. Clearly my first time using it. But the next thing you see on the video will be something to do with rebuilding. I actually need to look at the build guide for this keyboard again and see how all the pieces go on, because I don't remember how to reassemble it now. We've got switches figured out, we've got stabilizers done, we've got all the other soldering done. I just need to actually put this all back together. So that'll be the next thing you see. But that is my quick and dirty how to use and review of the Hakko FR301. I rate it 4 out of 5 stars. It'd be 5 if it wasn't so expensive, but I understand why it is. So there you go. See you after the cut. All right, well, reassembly from here is actually pretty easy. The way this goes together is at 6 points across the top. There's a standoff. This is a 10mm standoff with a female thread on both ends. This is a 5mm standoff with a male thread going into this one, and a female thread here on the bottom. At 6 points on the typing surface, there are these brass standoffs here. So you got 6 points on the key bed, 6 points under the sort of electronics bay. On the top side, the ones on the key bed are just screws, obviously. And so then what you do is you put this piece of foam on the bottom, which is slightly thicker than 5mm. And then you put the bottom piece on, which I'll show you. I'll just show you right now, actually. You put the bottom piece on, which is really cool on both sides. I didn't notice in the first video. This is really cool embossment You can have either side exposed on the bottom. I like this one, so I think I'm gonna go with that. And then you screw this to the bottom with some of the remaining screws, and there you go. The foam, based on the length of my screws anyway, the foam does seem to be necessary, which is interesting. I'm not sure if I didn't get all the right lengths of screws in my kit or what it is, but with the foam in there, the screws kind of hold pressure against the foam, whereas without the foam, the screws bottom out before they contact the bottom surface. So I think the foam's necessary, all that to say. And then on the top, you get a little piece of acrylic. Obviously, there's the paper on it right now. That you just bolt across the top to kind of protect things, and there's your keyboard. So I think I'm actually going to do the whole video from the soldering position rather than moving over and setting back up. So what I'm going to do now is clip all my switches into the FR4 plate it comes with, solder all that on, and then I'll do final assembly from the soldering side with y'all because it won't take long. And then I've got some different keycaps I'm putting on this time that I'm trying. So we'll do those too. One other thing I'm going to do is I noticed my third solder joint down on the OLED. So third from the top. Yeah, you can see the gold pad there. I didn't do an amazing job on that. It's still contacted. So I'm going to freshen that up. I'm going to solder everything back together. And then we will reassemble and put caps on together, and that'll be that. So I'm not even going to bother showing you soldering because it's the same on every keyboard. I'll just see you on the other side. Would you look at that? They're all back in. So, resoldering went super smoothly. Order of operations on this one, I clipped all the switches into the plate and then dropped all the switches at the same time into the keyboard. That worked well in this scenario because the leg holes on this PCB are a little looser than some. Sometimes you have to like really force the switch in which case it's easier to punch them through the plate and PCB at the same time. But in this scenario, it worked well to put them on the plate, drop it on, and then just get to soldering. If you're building one of these, I found hanging the knob off the edge. So like the knob is here. I'm gonna back up. You're gonna see my Adidas shorts, adorned legs. Oh, and the fighter jet I got at the Chicago Museum of Science and Industry. The knob is here. So if you hang it off the edge, it'll lay flat on the stems of the switches, which allows you to do, you know, most of the keyboard, and then just come around to the other end. That way, you know, if it's propped up like this end's higher because the knob, the switches won't fall out then because of that looseness. So I think that worked really well. Everything looks really even. I ran it through VIA to make sure everything's working, and we're looking good. And then I touched up that joint on the OLED, like I mentioned, and it looks fantastic now as well. So that is all great. Let's do some final assembly. We're gonna flip it over here. Start with the bottom stuff. Again, here's this foam. There's holes in it with the for the standoffs. There's also these holes which line up to other holes on the back plate. I think maybe at one point the plan was for screw-on feet. I'm not totally sure. But anyway, we're going to drop this on over all the standoffs. Like so. And then again, you can pick either side of this to be exposed, the kind of black on black embossed look, or the one with the GitHub link and the full logo. I really like the full logo for Lysol, so I'm going to do that. And then I was kind of fiddling with this off camera before I explain how it goes back together. I think what's going to work best is screwing in these bottom 6 positions to the point that this screw I'm putting in bottoms out on the screw that holds down the standoff from the other side. I'll explain why here momentarily. But I think doing that and then doing the ones underneath the LCD is probably the best plan. The screw on the other side came loose. I kind of wondered if that might happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab another screwdriver here. There are holes in the plate so you can get to, oh, that is off camera. So you can get to the top side screws. Oh, you know what? I actually cross-threaded that. That's funny. And then it goes like butter. Okay, cool, whatever. So the reason I wanted to do those first is because now you see how there's like this little bit of a gap between the foam and the FR4 bottom. In the back here, but everything's nice and taut up here at the front edge. Whoops, don't pull down on that plate too hard. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten the screws into the nylon just enough, because these are nylon spacers, not brass. So I'm going to tighten those just enough to flatten out the FR4, and that's how I'll know I kind of have enough tension. And then for feet on this, I've used the black ones it came with on the P3D case. What I might do is use these tall black ones it came with to give it some typing angle, so put those on the back. And then use some of the clear ones out of the P3D on the bottom. But I'll figure that out. That's not terribly important. I'll have it done by the sound tests. That's all that matters. I got fingerprints on this, which is, I guess, the way it goes. But there you go. That is all that. Now we need to do the acrylic. Important thing with the acrylic, you might remember if you watched the build video for this, my friend Mike Hurley also built one of these on his Twitch stream. And what he learned, and there's a very subtle difference that I might to show you here on camera. These holes are where it was most apparent. These holes are not the same distance, camera, from their respective edges. This one is slightly closer to the edge than this one. It's not by a lot, but it's enough that if you don't put this edge near the keycaps will hit the acrylic when you type. So make sure you have the thinner edge towards the board. Obviously, we need to do a big grand reveal of peeling the paper off, as is tradition, even though I'm revealing the electronics you have been staring at this whole video. Oh no! That's such a shame. There we go. That looks really cool. Very similar effect to the P3D case, kind of a shadow box sort of effect to it. I think that is very cool. I am certain it's not really coming through on camera as it does in real life, because nothing ever does. So now that I know that foam is necessary between the PCB and the bottom plate, probably what the sound test will be is comparing keycap profiles. What I'm gonna put on this is actually a set of PBT black on white keycaps I got from Drop that are really interesting. So what I might actually do is compare those against GMK cherry profile. These they're both cherry profile but different materials. I think that could be an interesting comparison to add to the repertoire. So I think that'll be my weapon of choice for the sound tests, but obviously that could change, and you all will know before I do, because the sound tests have already been recorded by the time you're seeing this. So you're from the future, I'm not. We'll see what I ended up recording. We're gonna bring back our old friend, the marbled knob cap here. I have since gotten a Rama knob that was an extra from the Satisfaction group buy that's silver. Might put that on at some point just for fun, but I really like the way the marble black and white looks with the topology motif up here. So speaking of those drop keycaps, let's put those on. One of the things that made me pick these is they had a kit that gave you a 1.5U, they called it the WKL compatibility kit. It gives you 1.5U modifier caps. So I can actually have, because I use Mac OS layout again, Control, Alt, Command, Space, Command, and then Function or Control. I'm not sure what I'm going to put here yet. Depends what I put on the F13. I might actually throw a novelty on the F13. I had not thought of that. If there's not something enticing in this kit, sorry for what was probably a very heinous noise. If there's not something enticing in here to put in that spot, like an any key or something like that. Not looking like it. Yeah, I'm actually go grab an Artisan of some type. Oh, you know what? I bet I would have one that would look really cool on here. That means I have to dig through my very messy top drawer of my filing cabinet here, though, to try and find it. But I just thought of an artisan I have not used before that I think would fit well with the theme of this board. There's all filing cabinets have to have a drawer like this, I assume. It's chaos. It's just chaos. Chaos in a drawer. What about our film canister here? Film canisters are hard to open. Maybe just me. This might be me admitting to a thing that doesn't bother anyone else. But they are hard to open. Yeah, I do have it. Okay, cool. This is really neat. I forget where I found these. I want to say it was just a seller on Reddit selling their wares. It's completely the wrong profile, but I think it's very fitting for this build. It is a piece of a de-lidded silicone computer chip. So you can see all the dye and everything there as I slowly move it around, trying to find somewhere where the glare isn't heinous off my lights. But it's actually it's a little piece of computer chip, whatever. I don't know what it's from. They didn't say what each piece was, but that is very cool. That is going to be my F-13 in the theme of exposed circuitry. I think that fits quite well. I like that a lot. Great. So the other keycaps look like this. They're just dye sub black on white PBT keycaps, but I am excited to try them. I think they'll match this build very well, balance out how much black there is really between the PCB and the plate and everything. So I'm going to time lapse through the rest of this, and I will see you on the other side. Well, feet aside, there it is, the rebuilt LCK75R1 from Lysol's Clean Keyboards. I love this. This is great. I liked the P3D case. I liked the shadow box effect it gave to the components. That looked quite cool. I like how compact and minimal this package is in this format. You can still see all the componentry. You can kind of see the whole stack up there. I think it's really cool. I like these keycaps so far. I'll be interested to hear the typing tests. The typing tests are fun because they're as much for me as they are as for y'all. Because then I get to hear things side by side. You know, you can kind of go, okay, and then go put on some GMK keycaps and do the same thing. But then it's been like, 10-15 minutes between those activities happening. And that's, they're not very helpful information. So I like making the sound test because then I get to hear different combinations of components side by side as well. So I'm quite excited to hear how these stack up. These are the Artifact black on white keycaps from Drop in PBT. I want to say the base kit plus the WKL extension kit was, which I don't think I actually needed in retrospect, but whatever, it's a more flexible keycap set now, I suppose. I think the whole thing was like $90 total, maybe less than that. So big fan of that, obviously, artisan and knob notwithstanding. But yeah, there you go. I think it was a very successful rebuild, very successful learning of how to use the desoldering iron. That is a very exciting avenue to have for rebuilding stuff in the future, because that is like stupid easy to desolder switches with that. So I'm going to live on this for a little while, then record some sound tests, and we'll call this one done. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you've got any questions, leave a comment down below. I try to answer every single comment when I can. If you liked this video, do so with the button, and if you want to see more, subscribe, and you can unsubscribe the moment you're bored of watching a guy talk about keyboards. I promise. But there is the LCK75 rebuilt.